All right, so starting with number 13 here, it says solve for x and no calculator. When you see this problem, you should immediately think a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And you should have one bright thought right afterwards. What is that thought?
Foil.
Foil. You need to foil. When you get x minus 4 squared, it is not x squared plus 16. It is not x squared minus 16. It is going to be something different than that. So we're going to go with 8 squared plus x minus 4 squared equals x squared. Remember, x is the hypotenuse, so it's by itself. Would you walk me through that FOIL, please, Matt?
X squared minus 4x minus 4x plus 16.
And then those negative 4x's, they combine to make a
8x.
perfect. So x minus 4 squared is x squared minus 8x plus 16. Now typically when you see the x squared in a problem, you're automatically thinking that we gotta factor this. But since we have an x squared equally on each side of the problem, we can subtract x squared and get rid of both of them. Then we get negative 8x plus 80 equals 0. Feel free to do the algebra slightly different than I'll show. And you can get negative 8x equals negative 80, x equals 10. All right. For number 14, you really want to fill in what you know. So if I give you a side that's partially 4 and all the way 12, you need to know that the missing piece of that is
8.
8. 12 minus 4 is 8. And now x squared is part times part. It's 4 times 8. We'll break that down in a second. For y is a side. So it's a leg of the big triangle. It's not the hypotenuse and it's not the altitude. So y squared is going to be the close part, 8, times the whole thing, 12. Means that y squared is 96, and that y is the square root of 96. Now I've told you before, and I'll tell you again, that you want to look for the numbers that are perfect squares. And if you can find them, then you can simplify these radicals just a little bit easier than anything else. Do you see any of these numbers inside of that 32?
16.
16. So x equals the square root of 16 times the square root of 2, and we know the square root of 16 is 4. Now I don't know, and somebody might be consulting their calculator. Does 16 also go into 96?
Yes.
Good. How many times?
6.
6. So we have the square root of 16 times the square root of 6. Now 6 only has a 2 and a 3 in it, so there's no perfect squares that can come out of there. But 16, that's a 4. So we're going to have 4 root 6. If you're not so comfortable with that, you can obviously take the 32 and break it down, and you'll end up getting 5 2s. And 2 pairs come out, and that's where you get your 4 from. And you get a 2 left over on the inside. You can do something very similar for 96. Okay? All right, we have these ones kind of all the way worked out for you. Let's go ahead and talk about them. What was the first thing we had to do? We had to drop an altitude here. That creates a right triangle and unlocks the whole world of special right triangles, unlocks the whole world of right triangle trig. Particularly we care about the special right triangles. So I would suggest that you draw this triangle right here. Pause the video as needed. We have a 4 and we have a red triangle, right angle. And we're going to draw a blue triangle here. It'd be easier if I erased for you.
Yes.
Okay, so we have the blue triangle that has a 30 in it, and we have the red triangle that has a 45, because it's the supplement of 135. So there's your 30. 60 goes along with that, and we were given this side of 8. How might I label the inside of this triangle, Matt?
Go 1 square root 3 and 2.
Across from the right parts. 1 across from the 30, 2 across from 90, root 3 across from 60. That means our scale factor is 4. Our one side is 4. And our root 3 side is 4 root 3. Similarly, in our 45, 45, 90 triangle, our whole goal is to get to this x. And I know that this 4 is this 4 is this 4. So all of those sides are the exact same thing. If I have a one side that's 4, my root 2 side is
4 root 2.
4 root 2. And there's our answer. For number 16, we're looking at, we'll drop an altitude at C, and we will have a 30 degrees going along with the right angle and making a 60. Do our 1, 2, and our root 3. This time we'll get a 2 root 3 down here, which is part of our 3 root 3 side, leaving us with 1 root 3 left. I've broken off this triangle on the right side. I want to do a Pythagorean theorem with it. So simple a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This video with Matt and Steve. All right, on to finding x and y. We've got a 45, 45, 90 triangle, which cues us to which ratio? 1, 1 root 2 or 1 root 3, 2?
1, 1 root 2.
And we've got 22 over the root 2 side. It's going to be 22 root 2 over 2. Is there any way that could reduce?
11 root 2.
11 root 2? Good job. And that's what x is, and that's what y is. How about for the 30, 60, 90 triangle? Is that 1, 1 root 2 or 1 root 3, 2? Steve.
1 root 3 2.
1 root 3, 2. So if the 2 side is 6 root 2, we could divide 6 root 2 by 2, and that'll get us to 3 root 2. That's our scale factor. It's also our one side. And then our root 3 side is going to be 3 root 2 times root 3. What's your best guess for that one, Steve?
3 root 6.
That's my best guess too. All right, go ahead and kill it.